you should have less to do. If you've done it right, you as the instructor and the faculty should have less to do because your students will take that ball and roll with it. That's really the goal with the engagements.
I wanted to know, just reflecting back, and part of this you answered already, about 10 years ago. So if we think back 10 years ago, and it's probably around the time when I'm trying to think when we were working together, what methods that have changed from 10 years ago, comparing teaching 10 years ago, what methods are the same as far as engaging students? So if you had to put on and go back in time, so what are the methods we used 10 years ago to engage our students? And are they the same? Are they different? You want to talk a little bit about that?
Okay, yeah, I think for at least the past 15 years, but definitely 10 years, we've been, doing constructive learning approaches
Mm,
where everything is based on the students, doing hands-on learning and having engagement and moving away from this instructor and turning into facilitator of learning
mm,
approach and things like that. I think there's also been, a beginning focus on
mm,
technology, but it seemed to be more so to prepare them for work, particularly where we were coming from community college. Everything was to prepare students
mm,
for, being successful in a work environment, which was
mm,
technology oriented. So now, I've always taught online. I've taught online since 2005, and probably all the major platforms. So I've seen them all change from very, very antiquated, heavily email based, all the way to, and just to answer your question about
mm,
Canvas and Blackboard, Canvas is
mm,
probably more engaging because it has icons. Just the
mm,
visual layout is more engaging. So now I think that how the methods of learning now have evolved, and particularly I think that we will never be the same after this
mm,
pandemic. We have evolved to we've taken the hands-on learning, but we're also trying to figure
mm,
out how to do hands-on learning in a distance way. So I think that is where some instructors are, struggling and learning how to do that, and the students themselves are learning how to be active participants in that. Also, I think that now the learning requires the instructors to know, not necessarily master, but to know and have accessible to them different technology, different components of technology so that they can help their students interact with that. So using engagement activities to pull in their cell phones, which we hate to see come out in
mm,
class because they're texting or
mm,
this or that.
mm,
But I'm just been one for several years to let that go. I don't repeat myself, so that's number one. But two, go ahead, text because they multitask. They are halfway sort of listening. They're listening when then something is due and all of that kind of stuff. But figuring out how can you pull that cell phone into the actual learning environment. So using maybe like things like Kahoot or
mm,
video technology where they have to automatically create a video using their phone
mm,
and even edit it but actually produce quality work. Things that make them, think longer and harder, and they still text while they're doing that, and so you have to let that go. Like, you have to, you'll be fighting that fight and you will not win. So which means to me that you just need to make sure that your class is really engaging, and they really won't have the time, or they may have the time, but at least they'll do your work. So yeah. Oh, and also the way that we assess students, I think, is changing now, where it's not such a punitive, standardized assessment. We did a lot of that. I mean, we still have that obviously in the elementary schools and so forth. But now assessments can be projects, they can be collaborative, they can be, really the end product, and just the that students know how to access resources and knowledge. And then you're able to see that they know where to get the information from. I think that means that they have, actually learned. Because and this is my final thought, unfortunately we're becoming, as educators, maybe overrated, maybe because all of everything that we're talking about is online. They can Google every single thing. But what I find that our students don't know is exactly how to pull all of that together in the best, most efficient way. So as you move from, top down teaching to facilitation, you really are guiding them to look for resources and show them how to find things, show them how to search appropriately and access the internet in the way that they should versus Instagram, Facebook, and all of that. They still have to be taught.
Yeah, that's a lot of really great points, Valerie, because Valerie, when we were working together, and I moved out to Colorado in 2015, so it's been almost 6 years now. But when we were working together, she was the one that was helping all of us who were challenged, including myself with technology, and she would do professional development, and we would all look alike. And this is way before the whole COVID and everything. So it's like, how did we do that? So she was a trailblazer and helping us. And you're right, we are seen as facilitators, but I didn't think about what you had just mentioned that they can Google a lot of things, but they may not know how to pull everything together. So yeah, I didn't really actually think about that. But yeah, Valerie was way ahead of her time with educational technology when we were working together because the rest of us were like, duh. Duh. So thank you. Great points.
No, I appreciate that so much, your the information you've given so far. And I'm kind of thinking about, my own experience and then the experience of so many faculty members, which is that they have doctoral training in their discipline, but they have no teacher
Teaching.
training.
Yeah.
Um, and uh, for example, my sister right now, she's a faculty member, but she had never taught online, and so now is having to jump into that, and that's ended up being, quite it's quite an endeavor,
Daunting. Yeah.
daunting. Um, and you mentioned in your original introduction that engagement, you can see engagement because you see students doing more, they're attending, they're responding to responding to assignments and so forth. um, you can produce engagement by asking them in the beginning of the class about how they're doing, and you can uh, shoot, there was one more way that you talked about fostering engagement that I can't remember right now, but I'm wondering, of all the things you've discussed so far, are there any additional ways of incorporating technology into your curriculum?
Mm-hmm. Um, so especially if most of us use Zoom or one of those types of platforms, um, there's a couple of things, and we do this sometimes in our faculty meeting. I'm lucky because I actually teach in teacher education and professional development. So all of us have teacher backgrounds. We've taught in K through 12. So we've been trained, to teach. And so I understand totally. There are many professors that they just know their content. They know biology and that's it. And then the kids, they're bored to death. They don't know biology and they don't understand how you're teaching it and so forth. And then you compound that with Zoom, and you compound that with, maybe your screen is off and you're at work, which a lot of our students, I work in an urban school. So a lot of our students, they, they go to work and stay and put their screen off. There's so many different challenges with that. But additional things that you can actually do to kind of negate that is to have the requirement that they, number one, that they use the class time as an actual time. And I say, if you were actually in class, this will be an attendance. So if you are doing other things or you're not fully there, that's attendance. That's lack of attendance. That's number one. The second thing is to use here's an example, use the showing of your screen. Have everyone, let's say you ask a question and have everyone remove their video, stop their video. And then you ask the question and those who have the answer, they pop their screen on. And, you can kind of play with a blackout type situation. We've also done icebreakers where you might say, guess which student is an AKA and how many AKAs do we have there? And everyone's blacked out and only the AKAs come on, things to just build that community engagement and so forth. Breakout rooms are excellent to do. They require a little help. They require a lot more from the instructor. So that's something that some may have to practice on. I have one class that has about 50 students. So
Mm,
I have
mm,
run,
wow,
a break room with like 10 break rooms at a time, which
wow.
is, if you think of, if you go have to visit each break room for 1 minute, that's already
Mhm,
10 minutes, right? And you have to go through there. So you have to make sure your instructions are super clear and that you have, that they know how to access you, and that you are broadcasting messages and so forth. But breakout rooms are excellent ways
mm,
to break up the monotony, make
mm,
people think, make people actually do work, and communicate with each other, and then bring back their information to the group. So a lot of times when I have a big topic that we need to break down, I break everyone out and I divide those pieces out, and they talk about that amongst themselves, and they become the experts, and they bring that back to the group. And
mm,
I chime in, of course, or direct wherever needed, but they've been able to do the work, and they feel more ownership and so forth for that. Other ways are, which I love, and I recently started really promoting it and developing it with the students, is with our teacher candidates, having them create YouTube channels. And so a lot of their reflections on different articles and so forth, they have to do a YouTube segment. So
mm,
they come up with this teacher brand, which is, Dr. Riggs's classroom. And then there's
mm,
different assignments throughout the semester, and they post their video responses there. And it's just an idea of when they actually get to their own classroom, their parents probably will follow their YouTube page, or their students,
mm,
or whatever. And they have a following because we're turning so social media and so branded and so forth, that I think it's important to, start to develop that, and for them to start working on their professionalism.
mm,
Lastly, I know other faculty members that do Twitters, and they have Twitter chats. They start with, just like you guys have this podcast, they start with different questions in a certain time frame, and they do a hashtag for that specific day. They open it
mm,
up, and then the Twitter world goes on a frenzy, and they read and talk and tweet and do all of that. So there's many things that you can do. All of these things are time consuming or additional work as you, as the instructor, to learn how to do them. But you don't also have to always learn. You can pull in your students, because they probably know more than you do. And
mhm,
you can let them know in the beginning of the semester, I will need 5 volunteers this semester for Twitter, for YouTube, or this, for that. And they're your personal assistants.
mm,
And and they can assist you in that way. And I never have a problem getting that help.
mm,
So you just a little bit more organization in the front end, and a lot more fun on the back end.
wow.
Yep,
That is
yep.
really great to hear about the use of the breakout rooms. I've been in part of breakout rooms at conferences and I've used them. And the different take you have on it is really refreshing about, the students become the experts.